Um, let me. Yes, now, okay. We need a little bit more light on you and we will be good.
They can't. They
Yeah.
can't hear Zoom. I can hear him. They can't hear him.
Okay.
Let's see if
Can you
that
say
helps
something,
some.
Dave?
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you speak a little louder?
Yes. Is that better?
Much.
They can hear him.
Okay.
Okay, we now successfully have you on stream. Thank you so much, everyone, for your patience. Um, as I said, there is now going to be a sternly worded letter going to the company behind Zoom. Hi, Zoom.
Once I got in there, it's like now I know what to do kind of thing, you know? But for next time, I'll know. It's partially like apps like to do this thing where they're like, hey, we need to improve things even though we don't. Let's move buttons around and do things like that because that'll be fun for everybody.
And you work from memorized buttons, which makes it more of a challenge.
Yes. Yep. So that's like I don't do updates all that often because every time I do an update, it's like, oh, that moved to a different page. Fun.
I'm sorry. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, no.
CosmoQuest, yes, you can have a beer now, but only if you bring me one too.
What do you want?
Literal fun. Hey.
I want a Blue Moon.
Okay.
Does Zoom transfer
Sorry,
beer?
David, no beer for you.
I'm sorry, Dave. Zoom does not transfer beer. I'm apparently using I have a very mad looking stuffed hamster on my desk and I was just using it as a stress relieving squishy.
Yeah.
So we have you here to talk about your music.
As I said before, help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope. That was my transmission. You did receive it.
I did. If I'm your only hope, though, you're in trouble. And my name is not Obi-Wan, so I think you're safe.
Okay.
So I actually know you because of the first Hangout-a-thon that we did back in, I think, 2013.
I think that's right. It was 13 or 14.
And we put out a plea on Astronomy Cast. And Susie, if you're listening, can you email all of our Patreon patrons on CosmoQuest and Astronomy Cast about the Hangout-a-thon? Because we forgot to do that. And we put out a plea on Astronomy Cast. Hey, we're doing this thing. Can you join us? And you responded not only just by showing up to watch the stream, but you said, hey, can I offer these digital download codes for this video game soundtrack that I'm working on?
Mm-hmm.
And we got to know each other a little bit. And when the eclipse in 2017 came along, you wrote the CD Zizergy to be about the science of the eclipse. And I got to know you through that experience.
Mm-hmm.
And since then, your house is now where I go for Thanksgiving along with several other friends so that we can do an amazing Friendsgiving.
Yes.
And so people out there who say you can't build real connections on the internet, Dave and his wife are two of my closest friends now.
Same with you, Pam.
I just needed to share that. But Cassini.
Here's your workspace, too, where you were sitting.
That's true. That's true.
Summer. Yeah. Setting up for the Weather Channel live stream.
Yes. So can you explain to folks on stream why you're coming from such a darkened room?
Oh, yeah. Am I super duper dark? Because I can.
No,
actually...
you're actually okay. It's just I want to explain to people briefly.
Oh yeah, I have a retinal condition, an eye condition called retinitis pigmentosa, and so bright is bad. Just like with this guy over here. Hold on 1 second. Oh, he may be actually kind of hard to see. He's over here. He doesn't like bright lights.
No, it's true. It's true. So we have E.T. right on screen right there.
Yes. Yep. But so I'm sensitive to light, so I can see screens and everything better when I'm in a darkened room. So we made my studio. We painted it a dark kind of twilight color and put in, these are blackout curtains, but it's night now. And then I just keep pretty low light in here for everything. And also it's to kind of emulate the movie theater sort of look of everything, but because I write film music. And then there's the city of Los Angeles behind my Christmas tree.
That is gorgeous. And Miriam, his wife, is the most amazing decorator of holidays among all the people I am close to. It is truly amazing.
We're a little nuts.
Now, you have a progressive vision disorder, and one of the things that I love so much is you fell in love with the sky, and you're continuing to tell its story with your music.
Mm-hmm.
And with the Cassini, you can find this on Bandcamp under David Joseph Wesley. It's just called Cassini. I'm going to drop a link into the chat. What all did you put into doing this music, which we're using in the background of pretty much all of our breaks during this Hangout-a-thon?
Oh, that's sweet. That's fantastic. Thank you.
Well, I just love it. Other than, like, I always have to explain the random countdown, which makes perfect sense as soon as I explain it.
Right. Oh, with the voice of the countdown coming in?
Yeah, the launch series.
From the Cassini launch? Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, it's kind of funny how it all happened. I'll try to make it not a crazy long story, but with the Syzygy album, that was originally a orchestral project we were going to do.
Yeah.
You and Fraser and I were talking about that.
And Fraser just joined in on the chat, and he's pointing out he did a video with you as well.
Yes, which is an awesome video, and his buddy Chad cut together some amazing stuff. That's one of my favorite things my music's been put to. I love it. So we were originally going to do an orchestral thing, and we were planning for St. Louis area, try to find a group of players to play during or around the eclipse in 2017. And the budget went from some stuff to none stuff. Yeah. and so we were like scrambling, trying to figure out, okay, what can we do? People have to get paid. I don't care if I get paid, but if people are going to be playing music, they need to get paid. Right. So I've always been deeply into orchestral music, but also electronic music, especially anything with synthesizers. I'm just a giant synthesizer nerd. And I have been since I was a kid. In fact, I have my very first synthesizer that my mom and dad got me for Christmas. Hi, Mom. She's watching.
Hello, Dave's mom.
And it's one of those sampling keyboards where you can make like all kinds of crazy noises and, you know, and be super obnoxious to your parents with it. I've always loved that stuff. And so I just kind of had a brainstorm. I had just purchased a synthesizer I'd been wanting for a couple of years that's incredibly versatile and can make so many different sounds and textures. It's called the Prophet 6, and it's made by a company called Sequential, which used to be Sequential Circuits back in the 70s. And this is a modern day update of their famous synthesizer from the 70s, from 78, that was used on like every Cars album, Betty Davis Eyes, every John Carpenter movie. If you've seen Halloween or The Thing or any of those, that's all Prophet 6 synthesizer, or Prophet 5, actually, the original. The 6 is the update. So I just said, you know what, this will work. Well, and I reached out to you and said, what if we switch gears and I do an electronic album? And we just went for it. So that's kind of how that happened. And then I grew up going to planetariums, specifically, if anybody's watching. I mean, you're in Illinois, but in Peoria, Illinois, they had a fantastic planetarium called the Lakeview Planetarium. It was part of the Lakeview Museum there. And I even took classes there where you could go early on a Saturday morning and they would let you run the projection machine and change the date and time and look at specific objects. And I don't know, I was probably 7 or 8 years old. Uh-huh. And I loved planetarium music. Or there was also an episode of Nova when Halley's Comet came in 85, 86. And that space music, that sound of that kind of music, and it's always been in my head. So I just got hooked after Syzygy and decided, why not keep going? And that's where Cassini comes from. I'd wanted to do an album about Cassini ever since, I don't know, maybe 2009. I started thinking about it because of all the amazing science that started coming back from it, and the images just were mind blowing. So what I did is basically challenge myself. Challenge myself, maybe, I don't know if that's the right word, but I tasked myself with making syzygy and Cassini on only using the one synthesizer. So every sound you hear on the albums, both of those albums, is made from one single synthesizer, and I designed the sounds and layered them on top of each other, including, you'll hear melodic sounds and harmonic sounds and noises, and then you'll hear things like the percussion, which I built using the synthesizer as well. You can build a bass drum and build a snare drum and build everything on it. And Cassini, there is one difference with Cassini. On Cassini, it's the Prophet 6 synthesizer and then Mission Audio. So I use Mission Audio. So like in the Storms of Saturn, for instance, when you're listening to that track, I took the, I'm going to do hand quotes with one hand, the sound of lightning from the surface of Saturn that Cassini recorded, and put that in that piece. So I can't remember where it is. It's maybe 1 minute and 38 seconds or something. I can't remember.
Storms on Cassini?
Yeah, it's storms colliding on Saturn, or storms collide on Saturn. And in the middle of that piece,
I'm starting it up in the background.
Okay.
Let me make sure the audio is okay before I destroy anyone.
It's buried in there, but the crackle of the lightning sound, which was a time-lapse audio recording of lightning. And I had the launch sound in All Things Are Go that you were talking about, the countdown and the launch. Some of the radio signal sounds, I put those in a lot of the pieces, specifically Among the Moons. And what was the other one? I can't remember right now, but there's Mission Audio throughout the piece. Oh, and also in the track 7 Years to Saturn, the very first signal, very first signal that the radio antenna got from the Saturn system, I put into the track. Well, let me go back a second. 7 Years to Saturn is exactly that. Basically, I tell the story of the journey from launch to getting to the Saturn system. And I was originally thinking, well, let's see, it took 7 years. Let me do that let me take days and put them into seconds and compress that time. So that would have been a 48-minute piece. And I was like, I like that, but is anybody else going to listen to it? So I just did a slightly simpler math and just said, okay, how about 7 minutes for 7 years? Let's just do that. And so the things that you'll hear in that track signify different things that actually happened. I created different sounds to represent the two Venus flybys and the Earth flyby for the slingshots, the gravity slingshots, as well as the Jupiter flyby and the flyby of, what was it, Masursky? Is that the name of that asteroid that it flew by in the belt?
I can't remember. I'm so sorry. It was too many years ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm probably butchering the name too, but I even put that in there. So those things are all represented in there, so that you're actually getting a compressed timeline of the journey between Earth and Saturn.
So I'm just going to make sure that all the audio is coming through. Hold on just 1 second while I step away from the mic.
Sure thing.
Okay, for some reason it needed to be uninstalled and reinstalled in order to work. I'll now adjust the levels. Sorry, everyone. Okay. It's giving me no control of the levels. There we go. Okay, so we should now have reasonable levels of music in the background.
Okay. I also, just for kicks, I hooked up the synthesizer I used, so it's here.
Oh, that is excellent.
If anybody wanted to see just quickly what it sounded like at some point.
Yeah. Okay, so we now have the levels good. So yeah, we'd love to see it first.
Sure. It's gonna be, there's some light over here, but it's here in the dark with the red LEDs on it.
Oh, we can see that just fine.
Okay.
And
then
thank you, Advanced Addict, for the bits. Thank you, Keeper of Maps, for the cheers. Thank you, Advanced Addict, for the other bits. Thank you, Astro YYZ, for the bits. You guys are all awesome. And that is the most photogenic synthesizer ever, I just would like to say.
I love, and it just, I didn't get it for its looks, but the looks are a nice perk. It makes it more enticing to get out and play with, And then this is a reverb unit next to it with an appropriate name.
That works.
Yeah.
So the song that we were listening to has stopped. If you want to go ahead and play something on your synthesizer.
Hey, let me see if I can do this without dropping the iPad.
It's always good not to drop people.
Am I blocking the camera?
No, you're good. So Larry is asking, what version of MIDI are you using? And thank you for the bits, Canada Kim.
MIDI, I'm on just basically whatever the original MIDI. I'm not on, I don't know if the software I use is on that new MIDI 2.0 thing. That thing's pretty new. I haven't dug around in it yet. I use Digital Performer. That's the software I use to record everything. And this is plugged in. I have the synthesizer going through the space reverb unit here, which I don't always do because the synthesizer actually has fantastic built-in reverb. Okay, Dave, remember astronomy podcast, not music podcast. But it is a fully analog synthesizer, just like, back in the day. And it's analog units. It's digitally controlled analog units.
Hey, the original spacecraft were all analog as well.
Yes, nothing wrong with analog. So is my theremin. That's 100% analog. So that is not hooked up, unfortunately, not right now. But let me see if I can cradle this so that you can still see the synthesizer, and I can play. Whoops.
So we're seeing your theremin. Now we're seeing your controls. Now we're seeing your monitor in the tree.
Okay, are you able to see the synthesizer now?
Oh, you accidentally muted your video.
Oh, hold on.
Thank you, Advanced Addict. I'm so glad you find everything super cute.
Okay, how's that? Am I back?
Still muted video.
Should be back.
There, now we see you.
Okay. Is that coming through okay?
Eric. It's coming through beautifully.
Just a little bit of monkeying around.
Now, you love space. You love science fiction. Which love came first?
Oh, geez. Pretty simultaneous, I would say. The main thing I remember is wearing out VHS copies of Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, to the point where you get those little tracking lines through them and then the tape is like destroyed. But they were pretty simultaneous, I would say. My mom may actually remember in more detail on which one, but I would say almost the exact same time, and it would be around age 4 or 5.
Okay.
Probably. I distinctly remember in kindergarten having a Wicket the Ewok t-shirt because that would be 83 or so. But it was one of those with the glossy, like the thick
Wait,
decal. That's
Ewoks weren't Ewoks only in Return of the Jedi?
I'm not going to comment because but yes, they were featured in Return of the Jedi. Yeah.
I thought that they didn't. Okay, I thought that was like middle school, so late 80s.
83. And then there was an Ewoks
Dang.
cartoon for a little bit on Saturday mornings. And then I don't know if they were in either of the animated series. I can't remember because I've watched all of them, but I can't remember. But I love them. I'm a big Ewok fan.
In Chuck Wendig's books, Ewoks are essentially service humans, except Ewoks, where they help those with PTSD recover from the wars.
See, I haven't finished his books. I started Aftermath, and I love Chuck's work. I've started Aftermath, and I've read a lot of the other recent canon books, almost all of them. But it's like I'm just trying to catch up on everything, and time is a thing.
And life is short.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
So we're looking like we're going to be rearranging some of our schedule things, which is fine. So those of you in chat, be prepared for the unexpected. Now, Dave, you find where your music crops up is often unexpected, even to you.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever encountered music that you wrote with one thing in your head being used for something entirely different, like music that you envisioned for space opera suddenly has become Wild West or anything like that?
Oh man, let me think. I mean, that has definitely happened. Oh my gosh, like a piece of mine that was used in a way that I was not originally thinking of when I wrote it. Yeah, I'm trying to think. I mean, I do a lot of bombastic action adventure orchestral music, and that'll get used in. I remember one time I had it used in a Jimmy Dean breakfast sausage commercial.
Oh, that's weird. That is
but
super weird.
Superhero. It had like a superhero that was like made out of the sausage sandwich or something. I'm trying to remember. That was a few years ago. I've had my music used as the muzak, like the soft, easy listening music, on the PA system in a 7-Eleven of an M&M's commercial that I did. So it's been playing for years. It still plays once in a while, but it's the one where there's a guy holding the two M&Ms, the peanut M&M and the regular M&M, hostage in a 7-Eleven. And oh no, I'm getting that wrong. No, they did use my action music in that one, but that's still what happened in the commercial. My music has been used as muzak in a Walmart commercial. It was used as the music coming out of the speakers for that. I did kind of a plunky, fun, like kind of quirky orchestral piece that I always thought was going to be used for like a kids movie or something. And this was one of the most unexpected ones for me. Miriam and I, my wife and I, had gotten back from a trip to San Diego late one night, and she went to bed, but it was Saturday night, and I always watch Saturday Night Live because I love it. I've been a fan and watched it with my parents when I was little and everything. So I was just like sitting in my PJs eating like dry Honey Nut Cheerios, and had no idea this was going to happen. They came back from commercial, and there's my plunky music on Saturday Night Live. And then the next thing I see is Christopher Walken's face, and it's with Christopher Walken. So I like jumped off the couch and ran in and woke up Miriam, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, check this out!" And that's still one of my favorite things. But again, I pictured it as like for a cartoon or something, and it was used in a sketch with Christopher Walken on SNL. So
and this is something that I didn't really appreciate until I talked to you about how you create your music. Is you have a room sense, this is the action that is taking place, a scene in your mind, even if that real scene doesn't exist, that goes with your music.
Oh, 100%. 100%. I always picture a narrative of some kind going on with the music. Just it helps me to have a story that I'm telling musically. You know, it helps me to kind of build that story, because music is incredibly emotional. I mean, like everything I'm writing, I'm feeling it. You know, I'm feeling 100% of what I'm writing. So you dig pretty emotionally deep to get there, and I'll either tell a story or sometimes I'll remember something. Like maybe I'll remember like a day where I spent like playing on the rope swing when I was a kid with my friends. And I'll remember like the feeling of adventure, like swinging through the woods on the rope swing, and it'll make me kind of conjure up my inner Indiana Jones. So but yeah, you have to go there. You can't. It's very similar to writing, writing literature or writing a screenplay. That story is in your head, and you're putting that story down. You're bringing it out of you, putting it out there. It's just not in words; it's in music. And then I'll find sometimes I'll play a piece for someone, and they'll be like, "Oh, this sounds like X. You know, this sounds like space pirates doing crazy things or whatever." And I'll be like, "Well, you got it. That's what I was going for." So that's actually one of the most rewarding things is when someone. It's basically like the music was a Rosetta Stone of me saying, here's my imagination and what's going on. Here's the music that's coming out of it. And then it transfers to the next person and they extract it. So that's super rewarding when that happens.
Now, with the Cassini mission, you were compressing over a decade into a single suite of songs.
Mm-hmm.
How did you pick and choose what the stories were that you wanted to tell?
A lot of it I did the science that really intrigued me, and a lot of the imagery that really intrigued me. And I know probably you and a lot of the other viewers follow along with, Jason Major and the Cassini imaging people and all this stuff. Just the beautiful images that they put out are so inspiring to me. I'll especially how the craziness of the moons and the rings, obviously. So sometimes it would be the story that would drive me, and sometimes it would just be a striking image. Especially obviously the ice geysers from Enceladus are just incredible. And the descriptions of like my piece Titan, that's on the album, that in my head, the entire time I was picturing the dunes and the topography and the liquid methane lakes, and methane rain and methane snow, and the little imagery we did get of the topography from Huygens, and that I took that stuff and basically built a soundscape out of what was in my head, imagining that when you listen to Titan on the album, that's from the point of view of maybe standing next to a methane sea, liquid methane sea, looking out over this landscape, and it was whatever struck me as inspiring. That was basically the logic with it. And then I would try to represent the images and the science and actually what my imagination was doing in the music. Like with the track Enceladus, at the end, I created a sound on the synthesizer on the Prophet that to me has the, again, sound, no sound waves moving through space. The sound of the ice crystals being blasted out into the blackness of space, and being blasted out there, and then just like the shimmering in the sunlight of what that would sound like, and just things like that. Just the imagery that would spark my imagination, and then that would spark the creativity and the music. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And I know one of the things that you were really looking forward to getting to witness was the launch of Insight and getting to feel the rumble of a space launch and that compressive thunder that is so characteristic of everything we've been taught. And you realize that the reality sounds and feels a bit different sometimes. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience? I'll just use that word with the Insight launch.
Yeah, we drove up the coast of Vandenberg from Los Angeles to go to the Insight launch. We got super fogged in, but we could still see the faint glow through the fog and definitely feel the concussive feel. It's actually, honestly, yesterday, Miriam and I went to see Rise of Skywalker at like 6:30 in the morning, and we went to this amazing classic historical movie theater here in Hollywood called the Cinerama
No
Dome.
spoilers. No spoilers. No spoilers.
The only spoiler is that we saw the movie, and that
Okay.
I heard that there were wars happening among the stars, and they happened. So, but that's in the trailer, and it's amazing. Go see it. It's incredible. And I'm the only thing I'm going to say is that it's easily one of my all-time favorite movies. And of course, yes, I'm a Star Wars nut. I'm a Star Wars fan and have been for forever. But I would be honest. I'm being honest about it. Like, incredible. Anyway, in this theater, it's a big, like, 1,000-seat theater. It's famous. It was built in the 60s. People have probably seen pictures of it. It's got like this big dome, almost like Epcot, like a half dome of Epcot over the top of it, the Cinerama Dome. And the sound system in there was just piercing your body, the low end. It was just like these subwoofers would hit, and it was like, it rattled your bones. And that's what it was. It was a deep percussive sound that you just felt all the way through you. And that's what the Insight launch was like. Except what was kind of crazy about the Insight launch is it wasn't loud from where we were. It was like you felt it a little bit more than you heard it, just because of the distance. But I actually did write a piece about the Insight, the launch and the trip to Mars. And I did that under my other name. Not that I'm trying to like go into the witness protection program or anything like that, but I do kind of like popular.
You have two lives.
I do. I did that under, I call the project is called Parsec, which is named after my favorite computer game from the Texas Instruments computer from like 1983 when I was a kid. It was very much like Defender, but it was the Texas Instruments version of Defender. And I do kind of poppier stuff like that. It's very much like 80s inspired retro synth pop. And I did a piece about Insight with that, and emulated the launch at the beginning, the long journey, not as long as Cassini, but the journey drifting towards Mars, arrival, descent. And then at the very end, I actually used that recording of the Martian winds that they recorded with the micro from the probe. And I put that at the end of the piece. But you'd have to look for, it'd be Parsec Retro, or Parsec is the name of the project, the band name, if you want to call it that, even though it's just me who's in the band. But that's also on Bandcamp. And also the Cassini album is everywhere. If you're on Amazon or Google or iTunes, which doesn't exist anymore, Apple Music, Spotify, it's everywhere.
And everyone, you need to go find these. And those of you looking at the schedule going, wait, it's 5 minutes past the hour. Isn't Annie supposed to be processing images? So I'm going to let you in on a little secret, which is it's chaos here right now. And the chaos is food is running late, and Annie needs to eat dinner before she takes over for the evening. And since we got started late with Dave, because Zoom is not friendly to the visually impaired, Zoom, I am displeased with you. We're going to continue this interview until dinner is ready. Annie has had dinner, and then she and I are going to swap seats for the evening. I'm going to hang out for a little while, make sure everything's going well. But everything will catch up. Have no fear.
Good here, too.
Cake.
I'm good schedule-wise, so.
Good. I kind of was being a horrible human and just assuming that.
No. If you contact me for something, I basically I'm totally fine. When I mentioned the Bandcamp and Spotify and all that stuff, I just remembered I have a kind of a fun treat announcement sort of thing that Astronomy Cast associated.
Yes, I knew this was coming. Go for it. I'm excited.
So I wrote the theme to Astronomy Cast, which Pamela probably, I don't know, it was mentioned at some point, or it's been someplace, it's somewhere. Fans of it. But, that's like a 40-second long theme And I wanted to make sure that there was a longer version so that, if people wanted to sit and listen to like a radio length version of it, they'd have that possible. So if you go to Bandcamp now, it's there. I just put it up
Found it. Shall we listen to it together?
Yeah. So what you do is go to it's under the same album. I just added it as a second track. I may move it to the first track, but it's the one that's used as the show intro is called Explorers, and then parentheses theme from Astronomy Cast. The full length version is called Explorers.
Oh, wait, hold on. Maybe I don't got it.
It's in Bandcamp.
Yes, I got it. Yes, found it. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and click play. I'm sorry that you can't hear it with us, Dave. I can't get audio that many places at once. Shoot. Hold on. We're having musical difficulties. One moment.
No worries.
That was amazing, Dave. You did such an excellent job on that.
Thanks.
Now, I heard like Doctor Who. I heard Lost in Space, the original. I heard like planetariums. What all was your influence in putting that together for us?
Those things. And definitely like the Lost in Space thing for sure, which that theme was actually written by my guy, my hero, musically, John Williams. Basically the main reason, one of the main reasons I got into the business. I heard his music and it just moved me. Like every time I hear it, it does that.
Gordon is saying that he hears a hint of Vangelis.
Sure.
Vangelis?
Yeah, definitely. That's another, as far as electronic music goes, he's definitely an influence of mine. If you hear like the Blade Runner soundtrack is one of my favorites, and that's Vangelis.
Okay.
Yeah, but let's see, Chariots of Fire is like his probably most well-known thing, which I like as well.
But Tron in there.
100%. I love Wendy Carlos. 100%. Like good. I'm glad you brought that up. Tron is another gigantic score for me, especially combining orchestral and electronic elements. Wendy was one of the first people to do that, and along with Jerry Goldsmith, who did it, and actually John Williams did it as well. It's just that his synth elements are blended into the textures of the orchestra so well that they don't stand out all that much. But yeah, those are all valid influences. I mean, they're all in my musical, inspirational DNA, 100%. Formative stuff I watched during my formative years and listened to.
And one of the things I love about working with you is the work that we do is completely different. I'm working on exploring our universe, figuring out what is new in our understanding and communicating it out to people and writing software to allow us to do more and more of this exploration. Mm-hmm. But I draw my inspiration from the exact same places you do in terms of the movies. I don't draw the same inspiration from the music, but it's what I listen to when I'm writing grants. Mm-hmm. And we have different loves and hates, and I know some of the people I adore you don't, but for the most part, there's been a few people I named, and you knew how the sausage was made, and I'm not going to name names on screen.
Oh, no.
Never meet your heroes is the moral of the story. But John Williams is still a hero. We're good, unless you're Annie, who's had to play too much of his music, which is a different problem. But we're both heading in the same direction, dreaming in the same direction, taking inspiration from the same things and creating completely different outputs, showing that space is something you can be engaged in, whether you're a PhD astrophysicist or a former punk band frontman.
Uh-huh.
And I love that diversity.
Yeah, 100%. And because of stuff that you guys do with science education, science communication, and the advent of Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and other things like that, people like me who I do dig into the science and everything quite a bit too. And like I said, I was, astronomy was a potential career choice at one point. The fact that we can all connect and realize that it's almost like it all comes from the same well, we're all getting energy from the same well. It's best way to put it probably is like what you said, which is dreams. It's a dreaming thing. Yeah. The most exciting part of probably both what you do and what I do is that part where you remember untold possibilities. A new piece of data comes in and you're just like, oh my gosh, what if? Or, looking at all the data that's come in, like in the TRAPPIST system with these worlds, like you start to take worlds that were in Star Wars or in Star Trek or in, Dune or whatever, and say that, okay, that's possible.
Right.
And that's inspiring to me as an artist, as a musician, as a composer, and it's inspiring to you for the possibilities of what that means for the scientific community. but I think we're getting the energy for that from the same well, because it has a similar feeling. You know, you're a musician as well, and you can probably identify with that it feels like it's coming from the same spark, right?
Yes.
The music and the science excitement come from the same spark.
Now, one of my favorite questions to ask people is, what science discovery in your lifetime was the one that just made you go, oh, and was like, this is the moment I will hang on to?
Oh man, I pay attention. That I feel like I see about 3 of those a week. I pay attention to stuff.
What's the one that you will be telling future generations of friends and family about?
Oh my gosh, let me see. I just had one, but it like slipped. What was it? I know it was an astronomical one. Seriously, there's like too many. Like I said, if you look at my social feeds, it's like science, and I'm literally all day long. I'm like, whoa, oh my gosh, wow, and like, you know, let me see if it pops into my head. Let's go forward. Let me see if something pops into my head, though. I'm trying to think of.
No, that's fair. There's just certain things like for me, archaeology is one of the things I love to read about. And the discovery of a Viking warrior woman buried with full honors 3 years ago, I think, was one of those moments of, this is a year in science result that I'm going to remember. I remember where I was sitting when I first learned about a planet-ish, a rock, basically, a big asteroid orbiting around a pulsar. These are the few different things that just stand out.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what the exact date was, but the very first actual confirmed extrasolar planet was a big one for me. Like I remember the feeling of being like, yep. I mean, so I don't have to do the same like professional science things that you do. So I was like, I knew it, and everybody knew it. It's not like, oh, we're the only solar system. Everybody knew that was going to happen, but just seeing it confirmed was pretty incredible. Another one, you were talking about archaeology. I love following archaeology too. And I saw a report, an article a couple years ago about this skeleton that was found in Italy. I wish I could remember the time period, but the skeleton was a male skeleton, and the guy had his arm severed from the elbow, and they replaced it with this super awesome blade.
Oh,
and I was like, what? It was like medieval times. And I just remember I retweeted it and I said, this guy is unarmed and dangerous. Wow.
Yeah. Bad pun. Excellent result.
Yeah, bad joke.
So I'm going to pause and interrupt for a moment because I just confused chat.
Okay.
So first of all, for those of you tuning in late, you are watching the CosmoQuest Hangout-a-thon live right here on twitch.tv. We are spending 40 hours live singing for our supper, if you will, inviting on amazing guests, astronomers, artists, and communicators of all kinds who share our universe and share a hunger to discover. We are this month trying to raise, if we can, $40,000. That is the amount of money we need to make up the difference between what we expect to bring in on Patreon and what we normally bring in on Bits, and what we actually need to pay our folks all the hours they actually work. And just like you should always pay artists and not ask them to work on exposure, well, we should pay our Twitch streamers, because exposure is really not something we're missing. What we need is the ability to eat. So spread the word. If you know anyone who's ever thought science needs more funding, this is your chance to tell them to put their wallet where their mouth is. Now, right now we are off schedule because dinner got off schedule, and Annie needed to eat before she came on for the rest of the evening. And
They want to watch me eat.
and and we were late getting Dave on because Zoom was evil. So we're catching up. And the question I have for you, dear audience, is do not close your Twitch window. You actually really are helping our stats right now. Go outside if you have a clear sky, look up and tell us how bright Betelgeuse appears.
Oh,
Because
right.
I don't know if you've heard this, Dave, but apparently that great big red star is still great big, but not quite so bright. It's now a
Right.
faint ruddy star. And this is
I-
weird. And
I
we
did
don't
see
know
that.
why.
I don't think I can see it from here because it would be off to the right. And we're looking through screen as well. But
And you're also looking through Los Angeles.
yes, which is a lot of light pollution.
Yeah.
But I did hear about that, and I saw quite a few people tweeting about it. And I mean, are people thinking it's like speculating that it maybe is like the beginning of collapse?
Well, this is, of course, is the first thing we're going to speculate.
Sure.
But we have absolutely no idea. We haven't seen something like this before. It could be that it's simply going and exhaling. So one of the things we know is there's what are called carbon stars that periodically will shed dust. Our borealis, for instance. And this will cause them to drop wildly in magnitude. So there are reasons that stars just suddenly go, hi, I'm going to be faint now. But we don't know. It could be like, hey, I'm out of fuel. Can't make any more light. Gonna fade. And then go kaboom. We don't know. It could also do a false nova event, which we saw with Eta Carina. Well, we didn't see. Other people generations ago saw it in the 1800s with Eta Carina in the southern hemisphere. So the fact that this bright red star that has been the corner of Orion and been one of those things that tells me every year, hey, marching band season is upon us. You see Orion on the horizon. For me, that will always mean marching band season. That beacon of high school memories is fading, and it's the memory, not the star, that is supposed to fade.
Yeah, I remember it during marching band season as well. And what if Orion just took some Advil and the inflammation in his shoulder is starting to go down a little bit? Is this a possibility?
I love that theory, but it is so not possible.
He's been like standing like this for what, like, I don't know, millions of years, maybe billions. It's got to get painful. And
so Nancy Graziano is asking, and someone else above that in the chat had asked a very similar question. Any chance that something very large or far away from Betelgeuse is simply partially occulting it? So Betelgeuse is like the size of the inner solar system. Something occulting Betelgeuse is not going to affect its brightness in a noticeable way. As far as I know, we've only so far been able to find planets around main sequence stars. This is because bigger stars, there I think may have been one exception to this. There was that was recently found. In general, giant stars or giant planets are tiny, and the percentage of light that they block is negligible and not measurable. So to visually see two magnitudes is, I think that's a factor. It's a factor of 10, of more than 10. I'm trying to do all the math in my head and flailing at it. It's a lot. It's a
what if it's
nonlinear
Nibiru?
system. It's not Nibiru. It is not Nibiru.
I was just trying to see if I could ruffle some feathers. Hopefully it's not star.
Stars get puffy and then eat their
pace.
planets. Yes, this is true.
Yes. I wonder, maybe we'll learn something new from the Parker Solar Probe that'll explain it, since it seems that we already learned some kind of new stuff that kind of turns some previous theories around, right?
I don't think it's going to help with Betelgeuse because it's such a different class of star. Gordon, the keeper of maps. Go ahead. What were you saying, Dave?
Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt. I said it's at a different stage of its life as well, right? Its life cycle.
Yeah, that's the issue. So Gordon, keeper of maps, is saying, could it be a dust cloud between us and Betelgeuse, or would that have been visible as a moving dim patch against all other nearby stars? That kind of thing would have been occulting all the other background objects as well, so we would have seen swatho dimming. It is conceivable that there is but I can't imagine how historically this never would have been seen before, because Betelgeuse has been watched since the age when myths were written.
Right.
But you can imagine that there is a disk of material around it in the center, and that disk is slowly precessing in front of the star. But I can't imagine that happening on the scales of years that this would be necessitating. I also don't know if the color is changing. These are things I desperately want to know. I need someone with a photometry system and filters to go observe this star. Trekkerkev points out Betelgeuse's variability was first noticed by Sir John Herschel. Yes, but it's fainter than normal, even around its variable past.
What's the magnitude? What's the number and the magnitude of change?
2 magnitudes.
Oh, that's pretty major.
Yeah. So it's awesome.
When a star goes supernova and there's those jets of I don't want to be in front of them.
Yes, when it goes, the gamma ray jets that cause long period gamma ray bursts. It's not pointed at us. We're good.
Okay, and those are located at the poles.
Yes.
The magnetic. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so and it's like 600 and some light years away. How far away before? Where's the safe distance from a gamma ray blast like that?
Last I heard, I want to say it's order of 7,000 light years.
Okay,
but
so
I haven't kept up with that number.
If it did tilt and point towards us, maybe it's just far enough away that we'd become like a planet of Incredible Hulks. Like
that is horrifying. I think dying would be better. I love your imagination. Paranor just put the word smash with a green gremlin from a video game into the chat, and it's quite awesome. Wow.
Yeah. So is there any observing, like, is anybody kind of changing gears and turning their instruments towards it on a major level right now?
I'm sure there's a ton of people. One of the problems that we're dealing with is Betelgeuse is a super bright star. And this means that most of the big observatories, most of the professional facilities are just like, nope, can't do it. It will destroy their instrumentation. Now, some of the facilities are geared up to look at planets and things like that, so they can handle bright objects. But we really just need like a good old 1 meter somewhere to do the observing and tell us exactly what's going on in the finest detail. And heck, you can do great science with this particular event with just a backyard telescope. So, it's kind of awesome. And now, so it was flagged even before I started seeing things on Twitch. It was just shared. An astronomer's telegram was just shared in chat, talking about the fainting of the nearby red supergiant Betelgeuse. And Betelgeuse is being frequently monitored during the 2019-20 with the Hubble Space Telescope by Andrea Dupré as the leading part of the 1920 program. So it's getting all the observations in the world, basically.
So Hubble is not Hubble's sensitivity basically can be adjusted so that it's not. Well, that I guess Hubble is
Yeah.
mostly planetary and deep space objects, but it's because it's gotten great images of our solar system as well, so it wouldn't be too
Right.
sensitive. Okay.
They have filters. You can take super short exposures. There's lots of different ways. And Hubble is that basically 1 meter telescope that we need. It's
Mhm.
the 9 meters, the 8 meter telescopes that are going to be like, no, I will not accept this. I shall show you nothing but whiteness and spikiness.
And what could be gleaned from other other wavelengths like radio or X-ray or?
Well, that's the thing. We have no idea what the heck is going on. And so someone Paranor just shared a plot of its brightness in 2 different colors, B and V. And eyeballing this, I think that it got fainter in blue than it did in green, and the system works backwards.
More blue moon.
Well, yeah.
Power the brain.
I think this means that it has gotten even redder, but I would need to actually write things down to make sure I'm not reversing a sign on that.
Not to be the composer talking about science, but I wonder if that would have something to do with the amount of material condensing. You know what I mean? So it'd be, think about as an artist when you're painting, when something's diluted and spread out, it's a paler version of whatever color it is. And if it condenses.
And in this case, something getting redder would actually mean there's more stuff scattering, or it's getting cooler. And the idea
or it's going away super fast for no reason.
Well, that is also an option. But can someone confirm the signs on this? I'm sorry, I'm just too tired to get my signs right necessarily.
I just think it's Starkiller base charging up for another planet destruction. That's what
yeah. I'm sure Rigel 16 that we've said it more than that many times, but we keep putting words in between. So we are safe. We are not going to inadvertently invoke Betelgeuse. We are simply going to talk about it, interject other words, say its name again.
It also could be, they did just announce a sequel, so maybe it's just a very elaborate marketing plan to get everybody looking at it. They literally just announced a Beetlejuice sequel.
Yes. That is fabulous.
I'm not kidding.
That you need to tweet that and I'll retweet that because that is genius. There's no way you can do that for marketing at this current level of technology.
Hey, we just started the Space Force. I think we can handle it.
Oh no, too soon, dude, too soon.
But no, I mean, yeah, that would be just next level marketing, right?
It also reminds me of thank you, D Newsome, for the $50. Thank you so much. I don't have a dog that will exuberantly get on stream to take a treat from me. We give you cuteness and reward, but instead I'm going to give the quiet little Malachi a treat quietly off screen because he deserves it for being quiet off screen. Okay, one of the bots has wonked out. Our mods will get things fixed. I'm so sorry. We have the best mods ever, but sometimes our technology hates us. All right. So there was an episode of Star Trek Discovery, the new one that's on CBS.
I haven't gotten past episode 3, but I'm not worried about spoilers, but
this isn't a spoiler. So in one of the episodes, they essentially ignite a false star in a place on the sky that a star had winked out, and thus change the astrology of the world. So it's
wait. Isn't that Orville?
Oh, crud, you're right. I'm mixing the two shows.
And I have seen it.
You're right.
But But I did see that. That was an amazing episode. I loved it. They put up like a reflective solar sail to put a false star up.
Yeah.
Some
You're
kind
right.
of
I thought they ignited something. I totally misremembered. Thank you for correcting me.
I'm a giant Orville fan. I love that show. It's fantastic. They're working on
Larry in chat is saying Orville is the better show.
Orville is top to bottom fantastic. It's Seth is completely channeling his adoration for Star Trek: The Next Generation. In my opinion, it's like the spiritual successor until Picard comes out in a couple weeks, and then we'll see. I mean, that's literally the spiritual, or the literal, not spiritual successor.
I have a slightly different take on it, and I don't think it's a bad take. I think it's just a different take.
On Orville?
Yeah, I really didn't like it until I realized it was to the sci-fi adventure drama what MASH was to the military drama.
Wow, that is amazing. And I bet if Seth heard you say that, he would flip out. I mean, that's an amazing compliment. I think that's true.
Well, you're welcome to pass it along. But I hated the show until I had that snap of this is MASH.
Right. It's like that hybrid sometimes they call it dramedy, where it's like there's real things happening, but there's complete comedy. There's comedy interlaced with it seamlessly. And I think they've actually really nailed it. We love it. We watch the heck out of it.
We got a raid from Skylius. Welcome, Skynet. Hello, everyone. I have no idea how many people just came in. All of you are welcome, clearly, and the internet has space for everyone. My name is Dr. Pamela Gay. I am currently your host. Taking over a little bit will be Annie Wilson. We are currently talking with composer David Joseph Wesley, who has written the theme music for our little podcast, Astronomy Cast, but has also done a lot of professional stuff that you have seen and heard. You haven't seen his music. You have heard his music without even knowing it. One of my favorite things to do is go to Universal Studios with Dave and his wife, Miriam, and have Dave randomly go, "Oh, that's mine." It just brings me joy. And
I don't know I think if that's happened. It might have happened.
It has totally happened twice. Once was Disney. Once at Disney and once on the elevators at Universal.
Oh, it was probably, okay, that makes sense. It was probably a promo for something, and I know for sure that my music was the hold music at all Disney parks for a while. Like if you called and you wanted to buy tickets or whatever, you'd call and be like, please hold. And then you'd hear my like epic adventure orchestral music coming through a little tiny speaker on your phone. So yeah.
So you have done the music Cassini, which is about the Cassini space mission. You have done Syzygy. Am I saying that correctly?
Syzygy.
Syzygy. You've done Syzygy.
Think of scissors before you say it, and think scissors and then say it.
I want to make it Eastern European. But it's about the eclipse back in 2017. You've done a variety of other songs or orchestral pieces for different seasons of the year. And of course, my favorite, music to smuggle by, which is part of how we met. Mm-hmm. Now, folks out there, I'm being told we need more music to smuggle by, so I'm going to see if I can play it in the background without breaking anything.
Oh, and there will be a sequel to that album at some point in the future. If that's what they meant by that.
Okay, let me know if the balance is bad on the music, anyone.
I guess we have to speak so they can see if it sounds like it's in the right spot.
Yeah, I think
I can't hear it on my end.
Okay, so the levels are good. So I just started the record at the beginning, so it's playing the signal.
Okay, cool. Can't stop the signal.
You cannot stop the signal. This is true.
Unless you're visually impaired and you try to use Zoom.
So, did you hand play the banjo and stuff on this?
Every instrument on there I played. So I played 5-string banjo, tenor banjo, acoustic guitar, like slide guitar, mandolin, percussion, and then the string sections and things like that I did off of my computer. They're samples, but they're real instruments, but they're sampled. So yeah, I played all that stuff.
That is awesome.
It was really fun. Thanks. I mean, it was like I grew up playing guitar and bass, and it kind of barely messed around on banjo. But as soon as I picked up a 5-string banjo, I went like home, and I just dove in. I was playing for multiple hours a day, and all of a sudden I was like, oh, I feel at home on this instrument. It just felt great. So I was originally going to hire a bluegrass band to play everything, and I'm like, nah, I'll just play it all. I was having too much fun. I was just enjoying it. And I just set up the microphone, sat right here at my desk, set up the microphone and just played. And I don't have it soundproofed in here, so I would have to wait for birds / leaf blowers / sirens and helicopters and air traffic from Burbank Airport and other things. It'd be like, okay, record, and then just go for it.
So this particular music is, of course, inspired by a show we shall not name. And I want to thank you so much for the donation that just came in from Maddie Woods. Keep up your amazing work. We're certainly going to try. This is, after all, a fundraiser. Thank you for everything you do. I get caught up talking to our wonderful guests. And I would honestly rather talk to our guests than beg for money.
You can name the show. It doesn't have to remain unnamed.
Okay, so this is music that is inspired by the Firefly television show, Keep It Shiny, I Am a Brown Coat. And this is one of the, well, it's a more dystopian future than Orville. So in putting this music together, you capture a lot of different emotions, a lot of different feelings. When you think of the future and you think of all these different science fiction realities, possibilities, not realities, all these science fiction potentials that we've been given, do you imagine more of the Firefly or the Orville?
That's a tough one for me because I could see it going either way. Like, I definitely have a lot of the philosophies of, I would say, George Lucas's vision. His vision's actually a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, but future, yes, according to what we know. Gene Roddenberry, the eternal optimist, 100%. The hopefulness, I definitely have the hopefulness that Carl Sagan embodied. But I have the kind of that little voice in the back of the head that Carl Sagan had as well when he did like the pale blue dot speech and things like that. And I personally am a glass overflowing guy. I'm not even like half full. I'm like just overflowing. I'm optimistic, positive, happy. I just embrace happiness and awesomeness all the time as much as I can. I mean, of course, there's times when you get sad and things happen or whatever, but like overwhelmingly, that's where I sit. Now, what I want to happen would be ideally like what we see in Star Trek: The Next Generation, where there's a global government eventually once we are a spacefaring, planet.
Do you think it requires a spacefaring planet first?
No. I've often thought that people would stop like yelling at each other if spaceships like in V just showed up over everybody's like town, Yeah. But then other times I see how people are reacting to current events and I'm like, oh, they might just go at each other's throats anyway and say, no, we want to be friends with the aliens. Forget you guys. So for some reason, it's very hard for me to come from the mentality of to try to get inside the head of someone who's not hopeful. I've talked to people recently who are not hopeful and have a darker, dimmer view of humanity than I do. And they do not picture the things I picture in the future. So that's why it's very difficult for me. to project or predict what would happen, or what the future is going to be like. I think it's probably going to be a little closer to something like Firefly, because the thing that I've seen going on a global level right now is how just the level of money, the financial gain and money and profit going above so many other facets of life on people's importance meters, where they're like, this is the most important. And I don't mean like my neighbors or anybody I talk to where they're like, oh yeah, I want the best car and all this, but the way that it seems people's value systems have gone away from, they've gone towards kind of in a materialistic way, and it's gone on for decades for sure. And everybody likes stuff. Stuff is awesome. Stuff is fun.
Yeah.
But there's got to be a balance, because basically the way I look at my whole life philosophy is, what is the best choice or best thing you can do for every living thing in the universe, right? What helps everything the most? And I know that's a daunting thing to answer, but there's so much division and anger and fighting, and there's people fighting for their basic human rights all over the globe, and there's others trying to take those rights away left and right everywhere you turn. It's an incredibly common theme, which leads me to the Firefly sort of feel of things.
Yeah.
Orville and Next Generation, both of those seem to exist in a place where Earth has got its crud figured out. Like, everybody kind of had their thing. That, in Next Generation there was a World War III, and then society rebuilt itself and said, hey, let's not like incinerate each other anymore. That'll be cool. And then they eventually got rid of. I don't know what you might know better than I do. What was like their kind of system, their financial system? Because there's no currency.
It was, there was currency, but there was a basic living wage that essentially meant that all food and things like that was free, but there was still gambling, so there had to be currency.
True. Yeah, and it seemed like people, the drive of the people on those shows was more about achievement and exploration.
Yes.
And those kind of markers in life, rather than like, hey, my starship is much shinier than yours. It seemed like that stuff on Earth kind of got figured out. Especially, do you remember the episode, season 2 or something, where they come across that pod from Earth with those people who had been cryogenically frozen from the 80s? And it was like there was like this rich, super rich, oil tycoon guy, and there was these other people, and that rich oil tycoon guy became friends with Data. It might have been some other kind of finance. He might have been a cattleman or something, but he was from Texas, and he was like a, total Texas guy, like classic Texas guy. And he kept on talking about how he had to get a hold of his accountant back on Earth. Like, they're like, well, he's from 300 years ago. And it's like, well, then whoever his great-great-great-great-great-great-grandson is, I need to get a hold of him, and really concerned about money and everything. And I remember Picard saying, like, this is something we haven't thought about in generations. And this, you're in for a shock. You're going to kind of have to readjust your outlook. And I don't know if they ever fully flesh out or explain what that system is. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to ask my friend, I worked with Ron Jones, who did the music, Next Generation. I talk to him all the time. He's my mentor and one of my biggest, best friends in the world. I'll see if he ever, was in a meeting or had anything where they kind of revealed what the structure was. Because, on these shows, they do a lot of world building that we never see, so that the writers all have the same, basically, template that they work from when they're writing an episode. So they don't have to, call somebody and be like, hey, have we talked about tacos in Star Trek yet? It's just...
That's awesome.
With the way I look at the world right now, I'm still a super optimist, but I could see the Firefly thing happening a little bit more than the other right now, just because it's like, this is probably the best way to boil it down. It seems like a lot of selfishness going along around, and it's selfishness on a person-to-person level, selfishness on a family-to-family level, and then further, a lot of selfishness on a governmental level, where governments are tending to kind of isolate themselves a little bit more and say, we're going to take care of our people, and you guys do your thing, and we can't help you. And it's like,
you got to help both, honestly. Or
Yeah.
we're becoming, we're halfway to that TNG thing as far as how global we are. Everything's interconnected.
Right.
It's not really the butterfly effect, but things really do. Look at how quickly a tweet will turn the world on its end. And that could be from the leader of a country, or it could be from a family who has a child who's ailing, who needs help. Like, it's just the signal, speaking of the signal again, it can go out there so quickly and spreads in minutes. It's everywhere, probably less than minutes.
And that can be both glorious and horrifying. It's fabulous when you see the lonely man who just wanted 100 postcards for his 100th birthday get drowned in notes from strangers. But there's so many other things in this world that go on that it hurts. But maybe
I
it's
think
the highs and the lows that will help us find how to make everything better.
And I think, I still think the good outweighs the bad, and there's more people who embrace the good than embrace the bad. I think that's proven every day, but we have that whole notion of our brains remember the spider that is scary more than the daisy that's pretty. You know what I mean? Where it's like, ooh, that spider screwed up Klaus last week. I don't know why it's Klaus. I'm thinking of like ancient man. I don't know why I made him Klaus. But
why not? We'll just call him Klaus.
Klaus got attacked by the scary spiders, so I'm staying clear of the spider world, the spider hole. But like, they see the pretty daisy, like, oh, that's great, pretty daisy every day. I see it every day. Our brains say like, don't eat that berry. That berry made. After Klaus got bit by the spider, he ate that berry and he was very ill. So don't eat that berry. Remember the berry. I often think about that. Foods like, who first figured out like, don't eat rhubarb leaves, don't do it.
I know. There's certain things, or the other side of that is the thing that always gets me is people figured out how to make olives edible and tasty goodness, because an olive off of a tree is a gross rock.
What about artichokes? Who figured out like, there's this delicious little like couple millimeter piece of awesome, but you have to attack the spiny beast to get to it. You know?
So that one, I've watched enough horses eat thistle that I'm figured that they were like, well, we see our other critters eating it. Let's figure this out.
Yeah. Or another one I think about is when you look at how textiles were created and like, how fabrics were made. It's such a long process to make fabrics by hand,
Yes.
And just with the crop of growing the actual plant that the fabrics come from and everything. And it's like, they have to do all these things where they put it out in the sun and then they put some sort of salt on it. I'm making things up. I don't know how to make fabric.
No, it's fine. So I'm laughing because the way that Kuchar, I'm just going to go with Kuchar. The rest of your username. I can't pronounce that. Kuchar put it was usually trial and error mixed with famine. So apparently our tasty foods come by people being really, really hungry and desperate and doing chemistry experiments on their stomach.
Yeah, like with, that's a good point. Like, people probably saw pretty things on plants at first, like, oh, let's eat this apple and this other thing. And then they're like, God, I'm hungry and there's no pretty things on the trees anymore. What's in the dirt? Let's eat this dirt nugget that's like a rock. And then we have potatoes.
It's true. It's true. But we are now coming up on the beginning of the next hour, and I do need to do a ad and reboot the stream so that we can make sure that our downloads can be downloaded. Dave, it's been amazing to have you here. Do you have any parting words for our audience?
Oh man, give what you can to support science and the arts. Like we were talking about earlier, if anybody who's been around for the past, maybe 25, 30 minutes ago, we covered this. The arts and sciences are very closely related. They come from the same thing. And in fact, one one will drive the other in a lot of ways. Where was it Einstein that talked about the importance of imagination when it comes to
Yes.
science, and how that's the dreaming and the imagination part is almost the most important part. And like you said, your interest in what you do for science was driven by getting into science fiction, and being inspired to actually work towards something to make those science fiction ideas come true. It's really important, and both areas are areas that tend to get kind of ditched by people. They can. The arts will have people trying to find as many ways as possible to basically just have it be like a commodity, where it's like they turn on a spigot. Thanks to a lot of the streaming services, you turn on a spigot and there's hot and cold running music.
Right.
But there's people making it, and I am very into democratizing everything, and I love having my music out there for people to listen to for free, because I understand. I mean, if you go to Bandcamp, you can listen to my stuff for free if you want to.
Yeah.
I'm more about sharing. My bills are paid by the music work I do. I'm more about having people enjoy my music. If they want to support me, awesome. That's fantastic. But in general, the arts really do need support. So when you can support them, and there's definitely 100% the same goes for science, especially when, both fields can kind of get under attack by people's other interests that they think are important, things where they're trying to drive money towards other avenues, where the arts and sciences really hold us up. Think about how many people in their leisure time, like they work, they're working, but in their leisure time, they enjoy diving into the arts or the sciences. They pick up a National Geographic or watch a documentary. And get so much enjoyment out of it. So it's important, and with the work that Pamela and everybody that works with her, the work that they do is incredibly valuable. It makes a huge difference, and as part of my parting words, do what you can to help, because it's worth it. Contrary to what you see in movies, scientists and artists aren't rolling in it in giant mansions, driving fantastic cars for the most part.
No, we're not. I live in an old, cold farmhouse. If you've been following along all day, every time I've gone off camera and come back, I've been dressed a little bit warmer than the last time I was on camera. Thank you, Dave. It has been fabulous to have you here. I'm now going to take you off screen and wish you the most delightful evening you can have out there with that amazing view and, well, all of Los Angeles in front of you. So thank you, and we'll talk soon, my friend.
May the force be with all of you.
May the force be all with you, and live long and prosper.
Oh yeah.
Bye-bye. So we are now going to do a minute of chaos over here on CosmoQuest. I'm going to run a 60-second break for those of you who aren't subscribers. And on the other side of that 60-second break, we're going to do a flash reboot of our stream. So here goes the ad. So the question, Annie, is, are we...
doing galaxy cake tonight.
Okay, that is cool. We are not doing cake tonight. We are going to...
Is better than what it was this morning, but its own special kind of...
Okay. My kitchen was taken over by making of homemade Indian food, which I am dying to devour. And so...
What? Oh, that was $5.
What just came? Oh, $5.
I thought it was 5,000. I was really excited.
$5 is very exciting. It's not as exciting as the 5,000 that Annie thought it was. But we have an excited dog. Shall I switch to dog cam for a moment?
Yeah.
Do we have audio? Yeah, we do have audio. So the dogs don't necessarily want to be on camera. There we go. So while the ad is running, we decided it was good. And we are now going to do a quick reboot of the stream. And then Annie will be taking over my seat while I play with the dogs and setting up for the next segment. And she's going to explain to you what is coming up next. So your screen may reboot. Do not go anywhere. We are simply ending and restarting to make it possible to download these videos.